Before my first cruise on P&O Iona, I thought I was well prepared. But once I got on board, there were a few things that only really make sense when you experience them for yourself. I've now cruised on Iona twice, and in this video I'll share 15 practical tips, which are based around the key questions first-time cruisers often have. One thing I'd definitely say before an Iona cruise is to book the things you really want as early as possible. That includes specialty dining, certain excursions, and theatre shows if there is something specific you don't want to miss. Popular times do go quickly, especially for restaurants like Sindhu, the Epicurean, and the Beach House, and the same applies to the busiest theatre slots. But the other side of that is not to panic if something looks fully booked. A lot of people make multiple reservations before the cruise, then once they get on board, they start changing their plans. So, availability does move around during the week. So book early, but also keep checking, because fully booked does not always stay fully booked. Before you cruise, the My Holiday app can sound like just another thing you'll probably use now and again. But once you're on board, it becomes a big part of how you manage your day. You'll use it for booking dining, reserving shows, joining virtual queues, checking what's on, looking at your onboard account. It's worth getting logged in as soon as you board and getting used to it early, because on Iona, it really does become part of how the ship works. This is one of those small things that makes a big difference over the course of the cruise. Bottled water is not included, so if you keep buying it throughout the week, it does add up. There are water stations around the ship, so having a refillable bottle with you just makes sense. If you want takeaway coffee, you either need to buy a reusable cup on board or bring your own, so it's worth packing one in advance rather than paying for one later. Another thing I was glad I had was a jumper or light layer. Evenings in places like the theatre can feel quite cool because of the air conditioning, so it's useful to have something with you. And one practical thing that helps in the cabin is magnetic hooks. Space is limited, so being able to hang things like jackets or bags on the walls makes it much easier to stay organized. I'll link the ones I use in the description. Iona is a large ship, and the first day can feel busy very quickly. Everyone is boarding, everyone is exploring, everyone is trying to work out where things are. What I found with Iona is that although it feels big at first, it actually has a very good flow once you start to understand it. That's why it is worth spending a bit of time on embarkation day, just walking around, going up and down a few decks, and getting a feel for where the main venues are. Once you've done that, the ship starts to click into place. By the second or third day, it feels much easier and much more natural to get around. One of the first things you'll be directed to when you board Iona is your muster station. A crew member will check you in there, which confirms you've arrived and know where to go in an emergency. After that, you're free to head to your cabin, go for lunch, or start exploring the ship. When you get to your cabin, you'll usually find your cruise card waiting outside your door. That's what you'll use for getting into your cabin, making purchases on board, and getting on and off the ship. You'll also be asked to watch the safety video, which is available to watch on your cabin TV. This is one of the best practical tips for Iona, because once you know it, it really helps. There are maps near the lifts on each deck, and they're useful, especially on the first day or two. But there are also a couple of simple visual clues that make the cabin decks much easier to understand. On Iona, there are 3 main stair and lift areas. Near the lifts, you'll notice colored plates on the walls. Blue means you're towards the front of the ship. Gray is midship. Red means you're towards the back. Then on the cabin corridors, the artwork gives you another clue. If you see a sunrise picture, you're heading towards the front. If you see a sunset, you're heading towards the back. Those 2 little tricks make a big difference, because once you know them, you stop relying on the maps all the time and start finding your way around much more naturally. One thing that definitely catches people out on Iona is the lifts. At busy times, especially on embarkation day, and also before dinner, after shows, and on sea days when everyone is moving around the ship at the same time, they can be slow and crowded. You'll often see people getting in a lift going down just so they can come back up again, because it will be quicker than waiting where they are. If you only need to go 1, 2, or maybe 3 decks, the stairs are often the better option if you can walk them. Iona cabins are well designed, but they can feel tight if you don't get organized. The easiest win is getting your cases under the bed straight away, because that instantly frees up floor space and makes the cabin feel less cluttered. If you need more hanging space, just ask your cabin steward for extra hangers. Magnetic hooks are useful as well for jackets, hats, or bags, especially if you like things off the floor and easy to grab. And packing cubes or small storage boxes make a difference too, because they stop everything turning into a pile by day 3. Entertainment on Iona is quite flexible, but not everything works in the same way. The main things you'll want to book are the headliners theatre shows and the 7:10 Club, as those are the ones that tend to fill up quickly. Most other entertainment you can just turn up to, That includes live music, enrichment talks, and things like the silent disco in the Sky Dome. But there are a few exceptions where it's still worth getting there early. Quizzes in Brodies can get busy, and bingo in the clubhouse is usually very popular. The Sky Dome shows are another one to be aware of, as seating is limited. And the same applies to Ocean Studios, where it's worth arriving early if you want a seat, especially for popular screenings. Even though I went on a winter cruise, it is still useful to know where the quieter outdoor areas are, because the busiest places are not always the best ones. Most people naturally head to the main pool areas first, and that's why those spots fill up before other parts of the ship. Deck 19 is one of the best places for sunbeds, and not many people go up there. Deck 17, outside the Sky Dome, is another good area that people overlook. And after the refit, there is also more sunbed space on Deck 8, which gives you another option away from the main pool focus. Then there's the Sunset Bar. If you do not mind not having a sunbed, it is a really nice place to sit, and the large whirlpools there are a great place to relax, especially around Sail Away. Even in the Sky Dome, which can look busy when you first walk in, if you keep going and walk around both sides, you can usually still find somewhere to sit. This is a really important one on Iona. The same area can feel completely different depending on what time you go there. Port days are one of the best times to use the pools and hot tubs because a lot of passengers are ashore. Late afternoon is another really useful window because that's when many people head back to their cabins to shower and get ready for dinner. So areas that felt crowded earlier can suddenly feel much quieter. One thing I think is worth knowing before you cruise is that there is already a lot included on Iona. Between the main dining rooms, the quays, the buffet, the theatre, live music, the Sky Dome, the pools, hot tubs, and general onboard atmosphere, you can have a very full cruise without constantly paying extra. At the same time, it's worth keeping an eye on the small extras, because they do add up. It might be coffees here, drinks there, an excursion, photos, a couple of extra purchases, and suddenly the total is much higher than you expected. That is one reason the My Holiday app is helpful, because you can check your onboard spend as the cruise goes on rather than waiting until the end and hoping for the best. A lot of first-timers look at Iona and assume they will need to rely heavily on specialty dining to get variety. But the included food on board is better than many people expect. You have the main dining rooms, the quays, the buffet, Olive Grove, and Taste 360, all included, and that there is more range than people sometimes realize before they board. Menus also change during the cruise, which is worth remembering. So rather than trying somewhere once and moving on, it can be worth going back later in the week and seeing what is different. And if you want to see all the dining options on Iona, I'll pop a link in the description to my dining options video. The final tip is a simple one, but it matters. If you need something, ask. Your cabin steward can often help with things like extra hangers, ice, or small cabin requests. And those little practical things do make a difference over the course of the cruise. There are also toiletries already provided in the bathroom, so you do not need to overpack things like shower gel. Pool towels are provided as well, and you can pick those up on the pool decks. So that's another thing you don't need to bring with you. So those are 15 things I wish I knew before cruising on P&O Iona. But the one thing that still catches a lot of people out is the layout, because until you actually see the ship properly, it can be hard to picture how everything connects together. So next, watch my full P&O Iona ship tour, where I take you deck by deck around the ship, so you can see exactly how it all fits together before your cruise.